Hi, Erin. Hello, everybody. I see you all joining in. I'll just give it a few minutes and let a few other people join in. Hi, Sandra from Brampton. Oh, hi, Paul. Erin says it's pouring over there. Perfect day for sewing. Well, here it's a perfect day for sewing too because it's supposed to go to plus 40, I think. It's been really, really hot in Manitoba. And very hot in Virginia as well. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is my second kick at the can for an Instagram live. The other one didn't go so well, but I've been practicing and hopefully this all goes a lot better. So I am Melissa Marginet, and I am the author of 2 books on walking foot quilting. The first one is Walking Foot Quilting Designs. And the second one is Edge to Edge Walking Foot Quilting Designs. So I use my Janome for all my walking foot quilting, and it's got the AccuFeed Flex foot, which is absolutely wonderful. And I'm just gonna move my camera here so that we can see the machine. Okay, so first of all, I will just show you my setup on my machine when I am doing my walking foot quilting. So I like to use the straight stitch plate, and I use this stitch number 3, which has the locking mechanism. And the other thing I like to do is put on my foot up key. And what that does is whenever I stop sewing, the foot comes up so I can pivot my quilt underneath my machine. Now, if you go into settings, you can change how high that comes up. Today I'm just quilting on something very light, so I'm okay with it just raising about the 3 millimeters, but you can raise it up to 6 millimeters. So if you're stitching something with a really high loft, you can go into settings and change that. So for my walking foot, the AccuFeed Flex foot, I put on the open toe attachment. That did not come with the 9450. I purchased that separately, and that was the first thing I purchased when I got my Janome, because for me that's a must when I'm quilting. I can see so well using that, and I can hit my points exactly. I tend to do a lot of quilting that doesn't involve marking, so I'm using the intersections of my patchwork a lot to do my quilting. And I'll just show you an example of that. So what I would do is start stitching in where the binding is going to cover up the stitching, and that's why I use that little lock stitch, so I get that little lock stitch in there. So I just start stitching and it locks it, and then it begins to sew. Then I aim for where I want to hit, and I want to get this spot here where I'm an inch away from, not an inch, a quarter inch away from here, or binding width. So if you were doing half-inch binding, then you would try to hit that half-inch mark. So I stitch to that spot, and then I 1 or 2 stitches into where the binding would be. Press my reverse foot, stitch again, it'll lock it at the end, and it'll cut the thread for me. So because I've stitched from one edge to another, I don't have to do any thread burying, and because I've locked those stitches underneath where the binding is going to cover, I don't have to worry about them either. I can just, you know, cut off that excess thread, or I can bury it into my binding when I'm done. So when I'm sewing straight along like this, just doing a cross hatch, having my foot lift up is not as important as if I'm changing direction as I'm stitching. So I'm going to show you how I change direction when I'm stitching. So again, I'm going to start where it's going to be covered by the binding. Make a few stitches, get to the point where I want to start from, and I'm just going to make sort of a triangular design in here. Sometimes I would mark this. If I was doing a special project and I wanted it to be precise, I might measure and mark points, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it for today. So I'm going to stitch over here. Now my foot lifts and I can easily pivot the quilt so that I can come to that other point. And continuing in a straight line, I'm going to aim for over here. The foot lifts up, I can pivot and stitch this way. Hit that point, again, give myself a place to aim to, foot lifts, pivot, and stitch off to that mark that's the binding width away from the edge. Press my reverse and let the machine lock the stitch and cut it. So all of my designs in my books are based on this premise, where you're going to find a spot where you're going to aim to, you're going to stitch a short distance, then you're going to lift your foot, pivot to go to the next spot. Now I don't know if you can see that on the back. I just used white thread on the back. I'm just doing this little doll quilt, so I don't have batting in it or anything, but it's the same premise whether you have high loft or low loft. You would just change how you would set up your foot. So what if your machine does not have that lift? How many of you have one of these in your box that your sewing machine came in, and either you didn't think it was useful, you wouldn't like it, or you didn't even know what the heck it was? So this is the knee lift, and it attaches to the bottom of the machine. And if your machine doesn't have the automatic lift, you can use your knee lift to lift your foot, so you don't have to reach around and use the lever at the back, and it's a real time saver. So what's really nice too about the Janome knee lift is that it's adjustable. So depending on your size or how you sit at your machine, you can adjust that to be closer or further away from where your knee is. Another thing I like to do is I have a piece of a pool noodle with that's got a hole in the center, and I will put that on there, which can adjust it even further or just make it soft up against your leg, so you can put it further away if you have this on. And that just fits at the bottom of your machine. There's a hole there where it just nicely clicks into. There we go. And I can stitch another line now, but I'm going to shut this off so you can see how that knee lift works. So I'm still using that lock stitch. I'm going to lift up my foot with my knee lift, aim to the next spot I want to be, stop, knee lift. So I never have to go like this and reach back to put up that foot if I've got the knee lift. Stitch again, aim to my next spot, lift, pivot, and I'm just going to turn it a little bit this way, make one more stitch to make sure I'm underneath where that binding is going to cover up. Hit my reverse button, stitch again, it'll lock it. And cut my thread. So before I had a machine that had the foot uplift, I always used my knee lift, and I absolutely love the knee lift option. Now you might be able to see that stitching a little bit better than the one on the pink over there. And I would just come down and I would do another one like this, and I would have these diamond shapes working down. So all the way to here, then come back and work this way. And I would end up with diamond shapes. So I'm very excited to say too that I've started teaching online classes. I taught for the Toronto Modern Quilt Guild yesterday, and that went really well. So if anybody is interested in taking classes from me online, I'm starting to take information on people who might be interested in that. And just a reminder that my books are available on my website, melissamarginet.ca. And I'm just going to read a couple comments here and see if I... okay, so the question is, just wondering when you would use the knee lift if you have the auto lift on the machine. Well, it would be a preference. You might want to use the knee lift because then you can choose when it goes up. If you were maybe stitching a longer straight line, you might not want it to lift in the middle of the line. So you want to keep stitching, and then you have that option of when you finally get to a place where you need to turn, you can use the knee lift. And Erin says it's perfect for free motion applique. Yeah, I could see that too. You're doing applique, and you know, you need to go around a tight corner or something. You would definitely need that. Somebody with 3 or 4 machines, and she doesn't know where her knee lifts are. Well, you better go looking for them because they are a huge time saver. I wouldn't be without it. Even though this machine has the automatic knee lift or foot up, I still have my knee lift on, and I regularly use it even when I'm just piecing, for instance. I all of a sudden might want to lift my foot because my fabric seems to be going crooked or something, and then I can see underneath better. So I love both options. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any other questions, just let me know and I'll try to give you an answer. But for now, I'm going to just do a sign off. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget to support your Janome dealers. Most of them are open during this time. Even if they're not letting you into the store, you can do curbside pickup. And keep sewing, keep healthy, keep safe, and we'll see you again next time.